Before I was a poet, I was trained as a photographer. I learned about the negative, how it's coded in a light-sensitive emulsion, how when the camera shutter opens and closes with a click, these light-sensitive crystals rush and collect in the areas exposed to the light. And when developing film and turning negatives into positives, the unexposed crystals are washed away from the film strip by a chemical named fixer. The fixer stabilizes what remains so as to make for a clear picture. Now, come on a journey with me. I started writing poetry at a time in my life when I was wrapped up in all my negatives. In college, no matter how hard I tried to develop myself positive without asking for help, I felt that any light in my life was snuffed into a barrel of depression and anxiety. And in that dark room, I was still coming to terms with all the undeveloped parts of me. My half-closeted queer heart, my post-traumatically stressed brain, my phantom limbs that did not belong to me but to a first-generation imposter enrolled at the same university. I did not feel worthy of claiming myself an artist, of claiming myself love, of claiming myself alive. I saw 3 different school psychologists by my last year in college. No matter how hard I tried to open up, I always struggled with explaining myself. As a visual artist, I create pieces about my trauma with no words. Emulating Filipino men, my machismo teaches me how to turn my emotions into resilience. As a queer person, I was always told to live in a lightless closet, so I only knew how to end my counseling sessions in a flash, no matter what questions they asked or methods they tried to fix me. My anxiety would whisper, "You'll only feel safe if you don't have to say anything." While my depression would taunt me, "Hey, you're such a burden, so don't be a burden to anyone else." So I would start to craft stanzas that I wouldn't speak. My earliest poems were not written to be shared. They're written so that I could stand to survive, and so I would write about my depression when some days I couldn't keep shooting, when all I wanted was to give up. And I remember there were days when I remember feeling so sick from not eating that eating would make me feel sick, and only words would fill me up. And on the days when I just couldn't go to class and I would lay there or couldn't go to work, I would grab a book and I would read. And I would read poems, and then a friend dragged me to the poetry slam, and we discovered the open mic, and the artists there would feed me. Their vulnerability started to mend me. I was in awe at their comfort on stage, and so poetry became my self-therapy. It was from this that I learned how to write myself back into the frame, how to glow in the dark, and once I learned how to spit too, I was saved. Yay. I don't call myself a photographer anymore today. But if there's anything that both photography and poetry have taught me, it's how to be sensitive to the light, how to fix myself stable with the right love and support, how to turn a negative into a positive so as to see and to speak the big picture.